Evening, everybody. Welcome to our work session, our budget work session. We'll call the meeting to order, and Erin, can you please take the roll?
Councilmember Pointer. Here. Councilmember Sherbrand.
Here.
Councilmember Gray.
Here.
Councilmember Schmidt.
Here.
Councilmember Gentry.
Here.
All right, everybody's here, and I'm just going to turn this over to Tim and Erin, and I believe all of our department heads are here tonight to talk to us this evening.
Yeah, so tonight we're gonna start this off with a little bit differently, but I'd like to have this department heads go first, and then I'll wrap up for the evening. And so in order for us to keep things on track, I know Wade sent out the agenda, and we've got the work session scheduled out. So the first person we'll work with tonight will be Ben with the police department. And if you guys remember, please come up to the podium so that way we have it on camera and we can hear very clearly on the microphones. Thank you.
So your spreadsheets that are in front of you, they should be in the order that we're going tonight. So middle at the top, police department. These are the same as what were attached in board docs.
Do you guys usually just go line by line then?
I would hit the highlights and ask questions.
Okay, so, let's see, let's start, the first one, under uniform allowance. So you'll see under the 2025 notes, traditionally in the past, we do an officer's 575, which is $500 clothing allowance. Working with the union through the contract negotiations, looking to remove that and absorb that same amount of money into a court master fund. So the plan with that, again, would be having functional equipment that we issue a brand new officer, anyone that we hire, we would have on stock items that in case they break on duty, maybe a few pairs of pants or uniforms that are generalized, more so the functional equipment that we need to actually do our jobs. I would have one of the sergeants be basically like a logistics supervisor who maintain the number of all the equipment that we buy. And then also tracking when it's replaced or, you know, whatever needs to be. The policy is done. I'm just waiting for the union to look at it, negotiate how they want that to look like. But the idea would be, again, is if something breaks on duty, we wouldn't have to wait 2, 3, 4 days or a week to get that stuff back. We would already have certain items on hand. We would just annotate when it needs to be replaced and then, you know, fill it back up in that service. If you go down to training and travel, obviously we hired an uncertified officer, so that's gonna increase that training expense, having to put them through the academy next year in that 26. Telephone and internet, so the RUOK system was canceled before I got here, working with Erin. Another thing that we're looking at to kind of save some stuff is removing the fax system. So a lot of the stuff that we do now, faxes don't really exist. Most of it's either digital, and the city already has like a digital faxing system that we're just gonna hop on. So the plan would be to remove the monthly fee for those faxes, to incorporate another $1,200 back into the budget. Let's see. Cell phones for vehicles, that was something I discussed with a lot of you when I first took over. Just the way that the laws go, you did see an increase in that line because we did add a cell phone in every single vehicle, not for every single officer. Insurance is kind of outside of my control. You're gonna see an increase or proposed increase for union negotiations and personnel matters. The reason for this being, again, just with any law enforcement history, I will usually bounce any personnel matters, anything like that, off of our HR attorney, right? I will make sure that all the paperwork is approved by her, make sure that we're going through the proper channels if we do have to do things personnel wise, make sure we're doing them the right way, in accordance with both our policies and state law. Delaware County Dispatch Services, so you'll see in the 26 notes, I know that was predetermined before I got here. One of the things that we did in Fayette was we kind of looked at, you know, with a contract, we had a contract with Fayette County. One of the things I wanted to do is maybe negotiate a lower rate based on how much we actually use the dispatch center, right? Like for us in Fayette County, officers initiate their own calls, we get walk-ins, things like that. If we have the ability to take some of the burden off of dispatch, I don't think it's unreasonable to have a conversation to say maybe we should pay less per year for those contracts. So that's something I'm gonna look at, that I'd like to do. And also based on like calls for service types, stuff like that, right? After a few years of data, I can go in and say that maybe, you know, whatever we need through the dispatch center isn't essentially the same price point of what we're paying, especially since, you know, our citizens kind of get taxed already through their tax dollars for that. So just a point of conversation I'd like to look at going forward in 2026.
Ben, just also a note for the council. Our residents, I think this comes from the general basic and the county property tax levy. So they're paying it already through their county property taxes and then they're being taxed again
On city.
through the city taxes. So that's an opportunity, I think, for a discussion as well with the county.
Yeah,
And we didn't really know what to do. I mean, it was the first year, we just started what, April.
correct.
And they did drop it.
They did drop it, right.
40%, we're now paying 30%,
Mhm.
but, or is it 35%?
30.
30, but it's still an issue for us. I mean, it's being paid for
Twice.
twice.
Now, we ran, again, I ran the same issues before, right, in my previous agency, so it's just a good conversation starter. You know, saying, hey, let's look at some time and then evaluate a better price point, that way it works for everybody.
Absolutely.
Let's see, nothing really else major. Go down to the equipment purchase, so you're gonna see kind of a re-estimate for 2025 and a higher estimate, kind of a higher estimate for 26, but. So when the Axon system was incorporated, there were just some things that weren't budgeted for initially, like initially we had budgeted for 10 licenses. Well, that only covered the officers, that actually didn't cover farm. So a portion of that was to remove the ability of having to buy physical stuff to transfer to the county attorney or their agencies. Well, when we hired Jesse, we realized we had exercised all of our licenses, so we had to repurchase another license. Another portion of that is we found out that with the original package, the ability to share to outside agencies and the county attorney, that wasn't initially proposed in that budget. So, you know, with going to this system, where one of the major benefits was being able to stop burning CDs and dropping off thumb drives and things of that nature, make things more seamless. We added that increase probably about 3 months after I took over too, to make sure that it was an actual way that we could move it forward.
And you want to go back to that vehicle purchase and explain that?
Oh, I can do that, yeah. So, I have an updated quote here. So going back and forth, talking about with, Carl's Motor Vehicles. So Carl's is the company that generally I go to, when we talk about needing all inclusive, right? K9 vehicles, it's kind of difficult to find the vehicle and then find an outfitter. With the need of it, again, the current K9 vehicles is completely out of control. I think it's a money pit right now, and it is dangerous to operate. The engine that was purchased, I think 3 years ago, 2 years ago, the third engine in it is already going out, and it's probably gonna have to be looked at by warranty again. We are nickel and diming it to hopefully make it to July. Right now, it's not so bad with the cold weather. I have a fear that once May or June hits, we may see an increase in the repair costs with it. It's been through a flood, my understanding, been through a myriad of other issues. If we're gonna continue the K9 program, which there is wishes to pursue that, we need an accurate and, you know, better vehicle to facilitate that program. We applied for 2 grants. I had not heard on one of them yet. One of them is through, a Adopt a K9 grant, $7,500. The updated quote for that, after going through them and removing things, is $85,924 as of today. So I'm still waiting on that other notification, the other grant, which was a larger portion of that. I can provide all this stuff to you guys too at a later date. I just got the other stuff yesterday and printed off the copy. So I have not evaluated any trade-in on the current vehicle. I don't know what it would look like.
Be push, pull, or drag.
Yeah, you know, we discussed that with Carl's. I told him that if I'm gonna drive it to Des Moines, no offense, I don't wanna bring it back if I don't have to. So, we're just trying to find time to make them, maybe evaluating this better idea. So the current quote that I have is the top dollar with no grants, no extra funding, and like that. That's if everything falls through, we don't get anything, so. Other than that, on the high notes for additions or changes, I really don't have anything else. If you guys have some questions for me.
You know, flip the page and go for animal control. And pretty much status quo, isn't it?
Yeah, just the workman's comp increases, which again, we really can't cover. The only addition would be, and this would be way down the road, but JJ did talk to me about, there was a group of people that wanted to come in and basically build us a whole new pound.
Oh, really?
That was a discussion that they had. I just told them that it wasn't gonna be in the cards this year, but you know, we could absolutely discuss that down the road, just because you know, the pound is older and then from what JJ told me, this does get difficult, more difficult every year. To stay up with the current state licensing with it, so, I know that he's done a lot of stuff on his own court under his own time to keep it going, but it may be something that we have to look at in the future.
They're gonna build it in the same spot?
Haven't even gotten that far. It was
Haven't
just
got
somebody that reached out to JJ and said that, you know, they came down
Mhm.
and they appreciate what JJ does, what the department does with stray animals and things like that, but, you know, I don't think they've had the real conversation yet about what really that costs, so.
Okay.
Special use is about the same, you know, trying to not do any major projects other than the vehicle that can be pre-budgeted for. And I think to stay the same, he still has, we've at least another year working.
Oh, what were the squad room renovations? That was for this past year, right?
Yeah, so,
That already happened.
well, kind of, you know, I know there was money budgeted to replace one of the squad rooms.
Mhm.
We just did it without having to rip out all the countertops and just make it look a little nicer, to not use all that money.
Mhm.
The only real major renovation that we used with that money was to buy a fridge, with the department that has running water that kind of got rid of that super old,
Mhm.
water fountain in there.
Right.
But all the other renovations, we didn't really do anything with. We just cleaned up the squad room ourselves and kind of did some minor repairs on it.
The special uses fund and the canine funds are not general funded, funds. They are ones that are funded by donations or by, certain grants or forfeitures. So that money is not property tax dollars in the special uses.
Yeah, and the big one, that the addition for the special use this year was the repurchasing of the old firearms before they did that upgrade. So all the officers had the ability to buy the old 9mm stack. Right. And that money goes into the special uses fund.
Okay. Any further questions for Ben? No? That's good. Thanks, Ben.
Yep.
See how easy he made it look? All of that.
Should have him go last, huh?
Fire department next.
All right.
No.
All right.
Are you used to them calling you chief yet?
No, it's weird. It is weird. So since I'm new, I'm not really sure what Kevin and Tim actually talked about for some of this, but I'm gonna do my best. So work comp, that's out of our control, kind of like what Ben said. Nothing, electricity, hopefully we'll see some return on that with the solar panels that we got.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the reduction will be, because we just got them implemented, so I have a $5,000 budget in there. That's about 2/3 of what they had for electrical costs before. It should be much less than that, but let's find out what first, when they switch them on. November?
Yeah, probably October may have been the first full month, maybe.
Okay.
So we really don't have a good idea.
When I put mine on,
Mhm.
yeah, you won't really be able to track nothing until we get into the spring.
Yeah.
Spring, yeah.
What percentage, do you remember what percentage they said that was gonna take care of for the electrical? That I don't know. I wasn't part of that committee, so I really don't know what they said. I mean, should be,
It might be on the utility bills. Does it show up on your line bill? I wanna say, we maybe saw. No?
It does.
Mine was projected to be 60% of what my light bill was, and it ended up where I was paying $15 a month all the way through the summer.
Okay.
So
I have access to the app, so I don't know if it's
And that
listed
was-
in there.
that was without me yelling at the kids to turn the lights on.
The biggest challenge is figuring out what they were installing so that we weren't overbuilding the capacity of this. Right. What they ended up going with wattage, do you know? I don't remember.
I don't remember, like I said, I wasn't part of that committee, so I just stayed in my lane. Let's see, electricity. Insurance, that's again outside of our control. Uniform and response gear. Hopefully we put a grant, I think the grant covers an application for new gear. We'll see what that happens. They may give us some, they may tell us thanks, but no thanks. And we'll have to figure something out from there. There's been a really, really big push because of all the cancer rates that they're seeing with firefighters
Mhm.
to basically have 2 sets of gear instead of just one.
Oh, wow.
So you basically rotate through. If you get into a fire, you wash that gear, you bring out your second set. They don't even want if you've been in a fire, they don't even want you sitting in back of the truck with that gear on. You gotta take it off before you even get in the truck. That's what they're pushing for. Air packs are the same way. They don't go back in the truck.
And how much does one set of gear cost approximately?
Up 10 grand.
No X hoods, they don't want you to even reward using those anymore.
Nope.
I didn't even watch them, they want you to, bitch them.
We'll wash them, but yeah, I mean, they're pushing hard on gear. And our air packs are probably gonna be due for replacement in 26,
We have how many firefighters?
32.
And we're lucky.
Yeah.
They have that many.
Yeah.
kids. Other communities are not that lucky.
Yeah, and some, like, within the communities, within the fire communities, they're struggling to get people to volunteer and, you know, take that much time. So,
I was just thinking on the aspect of 32 sets of gear, 10 grand a pop.
Mhm.
hopefully we get a grant.
Yeah.
We'll keep applying for it. Like I said, capital improvements. Last year, we put solar panels. This year, we'll probably pave that gravel parking lot.
Any idea how much that costs?
Yeah, we gotta,
With $75,000 budgeted, that's what's in there.
we'll see.
And that could be concrete or could be asphalt.
Depends on the cost.
Mhm.
So other than that, the vehicle, you've got the UTV listed there. The association actually purchased that last year.
Yep.
So that was not out of city funds. The association bought it. So
You want to talk about, what's the turnaround time now when you truck, and I understand you guys want to replace them. So when we place the order, when we receive it,
if you place an order, you're looking in a year and a half, 2 years. What we're due for, theoretically, we're due in 2027 for a new truck, I think, so we're gonna have to start looking at here fairly soon for a replacement for that. We'll probably have to put truck committee together again and get together, and maybe by the mid to end of 25, we'll have something hopefully come together for the truck.
so understand that if we do move forward with purchasing one, we won't actually expend the money or receive it until after the next council comes on. And so just so you're aware of it.
That'll be replaced on 176, right?
That'll be pretty soon,
776.
776.
It is 7.6?
Yeah.
177 replaced the last.
Oh, yeah.
So we, so 176, it's gotta be right at 30.
It was 92. I think it's a 92. Remember, Perry, off the top of your head, 176 is? 92.
177 first.
Started in 92 or 91, so no, it was probably closer to 94.
94, 95, somewhere
Yeah,
around there.
somewhere in there.
It's old.
Yeah, we're pushing 30 years old.
It looks
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
truck.
So,
Okay,
Any questions?
good job. No.
awesome.
Thank you.
And Hines.
All right, going down line, my first big one is nuisances, which we haven't spent 10,000 yet on nuisances, but we're cracking down harder on this last couple of years, so the expense on that's been going up, so likely that they're.
We're gonna start seeing more attorney fees coming through.
Mhm.
Then go down to computer services, that includes software, we're looking at new software. Which I believe. Well, we've seen a couple more less than 7,700, but. Checking out another one tomorrow. Just to see what that is. We got one more after that. Either way, that 7,700 covered it all. And that goes down to. Acquisition, demo, and relocation, though, that's just for like when we, for example, 108 Gay Street. We acquired it, and that's what maintaining it until we get it. So, we can go after properties. As of right now, there's no particular property that we're pushing to go after, but still, through the year. Other than that, you guys have any questions?
ECIA was just awarded a large grant for lead abatement of the homes. And that's when you done a $2,000 match. That was the local match for houses that were selected here. So, property owners can get up, now it's up to almost $40,000 in rehabilitation for their homes, lead abatement, updated siding, windows, furnaces, and stuff like that. So this really is a way for people to update their homes and stay in their homes longer.
I think ECI will be coming in April.
yeah.
To present to the council
Yeah.
about the new grant. If the council,
These are grants, right? No, those are grants. We're just the match, so it's $2,000 for every person that was awarded. We had quite a few last few years. I think we're up to 15 or 16.
I know we've done 8 this year, so I think we paid 16 this year so far, so 8 homes. So those are ones too that are kind of on our, some older homes in town that are helping, those homes be maintained and kept up. This acquisition demolition fund is, funded through proceeds of like when we sold 108 Gay Street, that money went into this fund to assist with the, covering the maintenance of property taxes and those things that we pay on the properties that we acquire. And then it also helps offset the cost of the match for that grant. So I think when I looked back, I think the council had approved in 2022 participating in the grant.
Yeah.
So when we discuss it in April, they'll bring you information.
Yeah, I had a question about office supplies. It's like doubling, do you know why?
Let me. Grab my sheets. Hold on just a moment.
How's the new truck on it for you?
Good.
You like
It's
it?
gonna cost a paper.
Well, I didn't think I'd have any expense on that, but I did a bolt in the car the other day, so.
I think you had the rental mailing this year.
It's pretty certification of rental properties.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably part of it, but let me have the detail.
That would be under postage though, wouldn't it?
Well,
Well, also
through the
paper, I
grant.
guess. Yeah, you'd have both. And paper's
So-
not cheap.
Your office supplies. You've spent to date $195.35. I think we were thinking, I don't think the bills have come on yet from the letters and envelopes for the mailer, so. He may not actually get to that amount,
Okay.
but yeah, I see we took it to 1,000. I'm not certain why. But do you have to do contractor mailings next fiscal year? Okay, so there's not additional paper from that.
This year, I wonder if you ain't got that. Because of the rental. For this year, we've done,
Mhm.
which we won't have that for another 3 years.
We'll check on that one, because I'm not certain why we hadn't
Okay.
bumped that unless I maybe fat fingered it as I was
Oh.
entering all the numbers
That's
in
an
there.
active, very easy. Okay, one more question. You figured you're gonna use less fuel, is that kind of a hard number to guess how much fuel you're gonna use?
Yeah.
Because you actually gonna use less than you used last.
Yeah,
Fuel
and-
mileage on your new truck.
It's doing the mileage better, yeah.
Yeah, plus it's really hard too with the fuel prices in the last several years, how they fluctuated to know where we're gonna be on that. But what I kind of do is take the prior year trends in here and then look at where he's been at to date for all the departments to kind of try and determine
Okay,
forecast where we're gonna wind up.
okay. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Is it Doug next?
Okay, first page, most of it is status quo as where we have been in the past. Our mowing contract, you see we're locked in on that rate for 2 more years, with SLM mowing. So that will stay the same for 2 more years. We upped a little bit of community garden expenses because we have, we till that out each year and JJ has sometimes done it himself, so we need to rent that and get it done with a bigger tiller. So it's just a small increase, but the big ones are capital improvements. This year we have taken care of the band shell repaint, and we have on the books here after winter and the salt and the snow, we will get a new parks truck. And then we also need to get a trailer, which you'll be seeing a memo come through here real soon. Got the quotes in just earlier, a little later last week for a new trailer. We're gonna go with an aluminum trailer. That's the one that JJ hauls mowers, snow blowers, mulch, et cetera, around. The one that we have now is rusted out pretty good and falling apart, so that'll be coming up. We'll be getting that soon. And then the future years, for next year, for 2026, we've got the Baum Park shelter, and it's the Baum Park shelter and restroom renovation, so that's it's a rough estimate, 115,000. Worked with Josh Demmer, he designed the shelter and the restroom renovation. We don't have exact numbers, but that's a pretty solid guess there with a little bit of cushion, a little bit of contingency in there. So that would be adding the shelter that was blown down from the tornado 2 years ago at Baum Park, as well as expanding, renovating, and making the restrooms ADA accessible. Those restrooms are very tight, small, dingy, and definitely in need of something, and have been well before the tornado happened to hit the shelter, but now it makes sense to kind of do them both all together as a project. The Terrell Park backwaters culvert replacement, we've been talking about that for a little while. That is a fairly rough, or fairly, I guess 50,000 is a fairly decent estimate of what that'll cost. We just don't know when that will go, when that culvert will go. When it does, we lose the backwater, so there's obviously conversation to be had there. And then our mower is 9 years old now, so we'll be in need of a new mower as well. 15,000 is a fairly rough estimate, but we should be able to handle it with that, as well as the trade-in of the one we have. Questions on any of that?
What do we, mower, is that for mowing properties?
That's for mowing, well, it's parks specifically, so we do disc golf. Currently, we do disc golf, we do Terrell Park, we do Seabrook Park, and then anything else that pops up, which is a lot. We have 2 mowers. One of them is a 0-turn Hustler. That's the one that's 9 years old. The other one is a John Deere, and that one doubles also as our snow removal. And that one will be something that we'll be talking about going forward. We've had conversations with that. It's hard for us to find the right piece of equipment that does what we need. We need to have something that's narrow enough to be able to do sidewalks, has 4-wheel drive, can get around, also doubles as our additional mower where we go into rough spots, or a little bit of some of the stuff, if we have to mow some rougher areas or some all-terrain stuff type things, we need that. So have to have a cab, have to have a heater for the snow side of things. It's really difficult because it's kind of a specialized piece of snow removal, but it's something that we'll be needing to, Jason and I and Tim, we've all kind of chatted this one over, and there's no great answer, but it's definitely gonna be coming down, as something that's gonna be needed sooner rather than later. We'll be able to get through this year for sure, but we'll see where we're at.
You aren't using this for the nuisance properties though, right? Or are you?
The mower?
Mhm. For any nuisance property?
No, we
you
No,
think so.
no.
We contract that out. that's what I
Yeah,
thought,
yeah, that's all SL.
Right.
Yep.
That's why I was curious, just what we do as a city compared to what our contractor does for us.
No, he does. So what I told you there is what we do. And then there's a few you know, maybe a special event or something where we touch up or a couple things, but otherwise the contractor does everything else. We keep Terrell Park because it's near the pool and playground, that way we can control when we do it, where it goes to, a lot of, you know, swim lessons and that sort of thing, and the playground, we try to avoid heavy usage times. We also do Seabird because we have rentals up there as well as youth soccer from time to time, so we keep that one as well, so we can hop on or in or out of that property and mow it when we need to. We're not at the mercy of, they need to get it done, so they don't, you know, if they have to get it done, they travel up there, they're not gonna necessarily care if people are playing on the playground where we can kind of avoid it a little bit. So we like to have control of that one, certainly. And then we also do inside the pool, which is small, but part of Darrell.
Just a quick question, Doug.
Yep.
And I'm just, it almost looks slow, but do you have vandalism repairs? And we've had some, that pretty well cover everything, or?
It depends. It depends. I mean, you know, if it's something where most of the things that we get are nickel and dimers, marker paint, something like that. And a lot of times we just take care of it. It's not a big deal where we've already got the paint on hand or it's scrubbing it off. It's time more than anything else. And we don't really keep track of it so much. So it would be more so if somebody breaks a picnic table or damages a sign or burns something, you know, that sort of thing. A lot of it is, it's cleanup more than replacing. So does it cover it? Yes, hopefully it continues to be that way. It just depends. If we ever get hit bad, then it's a different story. Most of it is inconvenience stuff rather than hardcore replacement. We, you know, a couple of years ago, we had some issues down at the Whitewater Park where that one did not cover, because that was, we have to call in and get it jetted out and, you know, go a little bit above and beyond. So hopefully what we deal with is inconveniences and not major costs, but it's almost impossible to predict. And hopefully we continue to predict it as being low.
Is vandalism part of our insurance policy or not?
Depending on the scope.
Okay,
I've never,
okay, I didn't
I
know for
don't
sure.
believe I've ever turned anything in,
Okay,
so.
I didn't know if it
Yeah.
covered any of that or not.
The bomb park shelter,
Yes,
didn't we discuss that a couple of years ago when we were talking about that? Because we have to do something with well house up there too, don't we?
yes.
Yeah.
So there's some, actually,
I didn't know part of that was your budget, part of it was.
well, Chad's not here, obviously, so I'll try to speak on his behalf. And we had talked here just last week trying to figure this whole thing out. So he got, Mark Becker up there and it came back better than what we were expecting. His side of things is a little bit more high output. Ours is a little bit more common, you know, outlets and lights. We do have space available to expand in our electrical box that is on, that's the city, or that's the park side of the building, I should say. His side is a little bit different. What we're trying to do is maybe separate it a little bit. The old shelter had the old screw-in around fuses. So it was outdated. Obviously, the shelter got blown down, so that's no longer operational, but we will have that expansion possibility in the electrical box that's existing there, so it should come back a little bit better than we were expecting. I thought we were gonna have to do a little bit more, and so did Chad, that we would have to do a little bit more separation, a little bit more making sure that he's doing what he's doing and I'm doing what I'm doing, but it turned out that we have enough room to make that work without too much difficulty, so that was pleasant surprise.
Cool, good.
And then turn the page, so then we've got buildings and grounds of the pool, that 435 section. The pool is a tough one because we just basically cross our fingers and hope for the best when we fire everything up. Perry and I kind of go through where we think possible snags might happen each year, and we try to hit them ahead of time. But until we actually fill it up, fire it up and get it going, we don't know exactly what'll happen. There is some cushion there right now. And obviously an aging facility, there's some things that pop up from time to time. We've done a pretty good job of staying on top of most of it, but some of it'll catch you by surprise. I do need to purchase some more deck chairs and some new more modern CPR equipment. And then there's a few other small things that really aren't necessarily, high need, but if there's money left over, we'll add another exhaust fan in the building, and then we always have a need for some additional painting and caulking and some small repairs like that, but it's nothing major. Otherwise, we've hit most of it, and then if you see 10,000 locker room floor paint seal. So it was about 6, 7 years ago, we have fought the locker room flooring for years and years and years. It's slippery. We've painted it ourselves. We've brought in a company to paint it. We brought in a company to epoxy it. It looks great for a while, then we start to chip up and we've lost it. So it starts to get a little slick, with all the baby oil and the suntan lotion and sunscreen. It gets a little slick and it gets a little bit, you can start to see it get dirty. We clean it daily, every day, sanitize, scrub and sanitize. It's hard to keep up on it. It's an outdoor facility as well, so you get all the dust and the dirt and the bare feet and everything else on it. So that 10,000 for 2026. I don't know if that'll cover it. I just put that in there. I just know that we're getting to the point, the current epoxy, it's kind of like what you would see in your garage where it's got the colored flecks, epoxy down. It's currently, black, orange and white, and where it chips up underneath is concrete, and so it looks really bad. And it also, where it has chipped up, and I don't mean chips like this big, I'm talking sections of, pretty deep, couple feet wide, couple feet deep, not deep, but width and length. So it looks bad, and then it also adds the slippery element to it. And so we have put floor mats everywhere where kids turn, so we don't have anybody slipping and falling. The safety side of it is part of it, also the aesthetic side of it. It just looks bad, and I had a company come in last week to come in and take a look, and I will get a couple other quotes to go for that to see what we can do. And I thought the orange, white and black color scheme was a great idea when I did it, because it looked really good when it was fresh and new, but as it aged, it didn't age well. So when it gets redone again, it'll be gray. That way it doesn't show dirt as well. And if anything chips up, the gray concrete underneath doesn't show up like a sore thumb. Down at the sports complex, we had some parking lot, some parking barriers that we created. Jason's crew poured some concrete cradles where we put utility poles in it to try to alleviate some of the parking concerns at the complex when we have games going on and or soccer games and or track meets. It gets to be pretty crazy, chaotic in there. So we're trying our best to work our way through that. And that parking lot is part of the city's agreement in the 28E with the complex. So we try to take as much of that on as we can. And then switching to the next page under our improvement line items. Nothing out of the ordinary other than the dog park. And so we have 50,000 to be expended this year, which will be reimbursed by the dog park committee, and then the remaining 20,000 after that, the next year. And hopefully we continue to get money in and can take care of all those needs right off the bat and have some money left over. And then the disc golf expenses, I have 5,000 down for the 25-26 budget because we will be relocating that. And so the hospital's gonna take that from us, we knew it was coming, we just didn't think it would be this soon. Which is sad because that course was in a good spot. It turned out really good, but we can relocate it down in that area by the dog park and by the wastewater plant, in the woods along that nature trail that goes back there. And I think we can make it a pretty nice course down there as well. The good thing is we've got all the equipment, we've got the baskets, we have signs, we would get them re-signed to show the different lengths and the different hole designs. The one thing that we would lose out on is the concrete T-pads, which was really nice to have. But that would be, that 5,000 would cover that, and as well as the signage. So questions on any of it?
On the T-pads, are you guys pouring just a solid pad, or do you guys get like the hog slat grates and put them on?
No, we just do a solid pad. Yep.
I've seen it multiple.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll try to move those.
You think you can?
We're gonna try it.
Okay.
What do we all?
Yeah.
How deep or how thick is it?
It's 4 to 5. I mean, it's average, but yeah, it was formed with a 2x4, but we were plenty on the.
Might get lucky.
Yeah, that's what we said.
Great.
What do we all?
It'd be great.
Give it a whirl, and if it works, it does, if it don't. So,
Yeah. It's a bummer because the course
Worst
works
part is
out.
gonna be getting them level back and level across the sand.
Yeah. Yep.
I have a couple of questions. Doug.
Yes.
Back to the aquatic center, I understand chemicals keep going up every year, so I understand you increased that.
Yes.
there. Do you need to do concessions too? Because I know food's not getting any cheaper. either.
Yeah, so, well, the concession, so this goes for the complex as well as. the
Yeah, I saw
aquatic
it's on
center.
both of them, yeah.
So the concession items, the vast majority of it comes out in this budget. I do have these past few years, I have ordered bulk candy from Fairway. And so I have some stuff that's left over.
Okay.
And so Fairways, James has been great to work with on that end. And the stuff that I purchase has shelf life to get us through, some of the taffy stuff has a shelf life of many years.
It's like McDonald's.
Just leave it at that. So I do have some stuff left over. I think that our prices have kind of leveled off. The last couple of years, they were definitely going up. I think they've leveled off a little bit. It's hard to tell until we get back into it. Also especially with the ball diamonds, it's tough to know how many, what the weather's like, how many games do we have right off the bat where it's real nice. And really, that's a big problem with the pool as well. Like I said, we don't really know what we get into. There's a whole lot of money that comes out of this budget in the very last few weeks of the budget time, so it's kind of hard to prepare
So
for
they're
it.
kind of, you work between the two of them. so,
Work
yeah.
between two, so it's not ideal by any means. The budget year cuts right in the middle of it.
Mhm.
And there's always a big staff line item that pops up right
Mhm.
before, there's always a big concession stand item that pops up right before.
Okay.
So it's hard to kind of predict. And we try to do the best and while we leave a little bit of a cushion because it does span right in the middle of the season. And it's the same thing with the ball diamonds too with the
I
complex.
kind of assumed that you kind of did between the two, but I just thought it.
Chemical usage with water.
Yeah, so the chemical usage, so we are locked in on a contract there as well. So I've signed it for this year. We signed it, I signed it for a year at a time, can do two, but didn't want to do two. We gained a little bit this year in what it costs us. But we had a mud valve that was leaking. We had multiple leaks. We ended up recaulking, repainting all the leaks that we were aware of. It did drop our water usage down a little bit, but there was still more. And so Perry and I were kind of going through where are we losing this at? It was a valve in the pit in the filter room. And so we got that new valve ready to go. That should cut down on our water usage. It should cut down on our heater usage because we're not pumping cold water back in constantly. And our chemical usage should go down as well because we're not putting untreated water in constantly. We
Gotcha.
keep our heated and treated water in the pool a little bit longer because we're not losing as much. So in theory, our chemical usage should go down, which would lead to a better price for next year.
Okay.
But until we go through this pool season and see how much water we're using or losing or not losing, then we track it. Our chemical company that we purchase from tracks it as well. And so we can look back and that's why I signed a 1-year deal this year because I feel like our usage should go down and that should be reflected on next year's contract as well.
All right, thank you. And also the last thing, I didn't see any salaries under the sports complex like there was a couple of years prior. Is that because is it mostly volunteers? or-
We haven't put any wage info in yet, just because we are still, I didn't put any at all in.
Oh,
just because
gotcha.
we're still waiting on percentages.
Gotcha.
Contracts.
Makes
so
sense. Okay,
That'll be at a, probably the next meeting for the guidance.
Thank you.
thank
Thank
you,
you.
Doug.
Thanks, sir.
Just in time.
All right, next we have, you walked in just in time. Good. Perfect.
Sorry about that. I did speech tonight at the high school, so he's all done performing, so here I am.
Awesome.
All right, so going through some of the things when I sat down with Tim and we talked about dues and subscriptions, I would like to keep the same, but I did, since I've been there, cut down on the amount of things that we are buying for our patrons, things that were not being used, I have cut out. I've not had a full year of all those cuts. And of course, everything is raising. So especially when it comes to periodicals and magazines and things like that.
Mhm.
So it'll be interesting to see at the end of this year, really what we're looking at for dues and subscriptions. So that I'm looking at, it may be able to go down in the future, but I just don't know what that looks like at this time. Training and travel, we really wanted to keep the same because, we are looking at, possibly looking at going to the National ALA Conference again, which will be in Chicago. And that is a little bit pricier than the ILA, but the ILA is over in Sioux City, which would make it more expensive for me to go there than to Chicago probably. So we're looking at doing that as well. Again, I did that a couple of years ago and that was very beneficial to me. Buildings and grounds, I've been talking with Aaron about this. It makes me a little nervous that I've already used that much of my buildings and grounds this year. But it's an old building. One big thing that I needed a power, a shut off valve for or shut off button for my boiler on the outside. And that was over $3,000 and that had to be done because of an inspection. And there's always just little things here or there. I know switching over to all secure with our security system and stuff, I've had to put in a little bit of money there to make everything work with them. And so those things I don't feel like will be an issue in the future, but as we always talk about, that building is old and things pop up. So we're hoping that nothing pops up significantly in the next couple months and that we can kind of move through the rest of the year there. Let's see. The mowing contract, we did need to up that this year. I got a contract with, one of the companies here in town and they didn't have on how much it would be for fall cleanup. It was $75 an hour and it was a really large bill. And so that was unexpected for me. And so we did up it, but I am looking, just so you know, I will be getting 3 quotes from different, all 3 different companies for next year. And I'm hoping to look for something that is more, friendly to the budget, as well as thinking about other ways we can deal with fall cleanup. If we don't want to spend that extra money on that and just really work on the mowing part, either doing volunteers or doing it myself and letting the guys know when I'm ready for them to come pick it up, that kind of stuff. Program events and library materials, we want to keep kind of the same with that. Again, things are not getting cheaper, and so big things that we spend on is summer reading. So that is still coming up, but we do spend a little bit of money from our gift and trust for that because we like to spend anything that we're giving out as prizes from our gift and trust and not from our general budget. And so we tend to use that for those kinds of things as well. And then the rest of it, the biggest thing would be for next year, the capital improvement, which we talked a little bit about, would be the boilers and the one air conditioning unit. I do feel, I don't have any exact data on this, but I do feel like my electricity usage is a lot better this year. And I do have to feel like maybe it has something to do with getting that new air conditioning unit and air exchange and all of that. So I'm hoping that also will help when it comes to putting in the boiler. I do have some information on how to get some rebates from Black Hills. So I will get that as well when we go through the process of getting that boiler changed over. We'll hopefully get a rebate for that as well. So otherwise, big thing on the gift and trust is we spent all of the Helen Schmidt fund last year on the meeting room renovation. And so that is all done and complete. We also, it doesn't look like it's in here anyway, but we also had a little fund, the Laura Stewart Fund, which we used for nonfiction. We use it for nonfiction books to buy them. I think it was like 3,000, but we finished that at the beginning of this fiscal year. And so other than that, we just kind of doing the same thing with our gift and trust. We did feel like 7,500 might not be quite enough for our library materials. That we use any replacements that we get, any donations, we try our best to buy them within that fiscal year, but we know we can't do all of them depending on who donates. And so we do try to honor people's wishes on what those donations get used for. So if they say we want large print books or we want children's books or that kind of stuff, we make notes of those, and then the people, my librarians that buy the books then keep track of that. And so that's what mainly that gift and trust for library materials is used for, with replacements and donations, so.
And that fund is all from donations, memorials, all,
Yeah.
that doesn't include any property tax.
No, and I know that her and I work together, we have it, quite a bit, I think 100,000 in a CD, and it gets a good amount of, interest back. So we're gonna continue working through that so that we can get more bang for the buck on those, and, yeah. Any questions on that? All right, thank you.
So this Chad's not here, correct?
Yeah, Chad, not here tonight. I'll come back, I'll cover that one later, but
Okay,
we've got Harry here and he's
we'll go
next.
ahead and get him next.
I'll give you a few minutes, a few seconds to look it over, but a few of the line items I'd like to clear up. In early 23, Aaron and I added wastewater plant repairs, which was a line item we wanted to, with the plant being, depends on what year you look at it going online, 13, 14 years old, that we were starting to see some big repairs. So we wanted to follow that a little closer. So we added that line item, and then last year we added, or actually coming into this year, we added lift station repairs. Because a few of our newer, older lift stations are pushing 15 years old now, so they were starting to need some big repairs. So it was an easier way to keep track of what was happening with that. But with that, sewer maintenance and repair and equipment maintenance and repair, the items were kind of getting lost because those budget items were not seeing as much money come out of them because they were going to those other two line items. So with wastewater plant repairs, we're sitting at 20,000 to roughly 20,200 now, and we were budgeted at 20,000. We've re-estimated that at 30, but we have a fairly large expense yet coming from some blower repairs to blower number 1 and 4, and some smaller repairs that isn't normal to the UV system. So you'll see that coming out of there. This year's lift station repair line item, we're pushing 18,000 now. We've re-estimated that at 26,000, but this spring we have to put new impellers and wear rings in Industrial Park Lift Station, which is out by Schramm Park. So them parts are ordered, so it's just a different way for us to keep track of with the older equipment, what's coming out. The sewer maintenance and repair, we've left at 25,000, but most of that is what Jason does through the jet vac, manhole fixing and stuff like that now, so. I know Jason's had to order some hose or some parts and stuff for the jet vac. So all of that should stay fairly, hopefully consistent now with these dollar values. The equipment repair and maintenance. If you look at our actual expenses right now, we're fairly low at $4,000 roughly through this year, but it's time to replace a whole bunch of bulbs and quartz sleeves and everything for the UV. So we're looking at another probably $8,000 to $15,000 with UV replacement stuff. So we wanted to keep that at the 25,000 for this year. And then once we get through that stage, we'll bump it back down to the 20 and see over the next few years if, with all the other line items, if we truly need that much in there. The other, I guess the rest of that down through there. Oh yeah, on the equipment repair, we have a generator now at Grayson's lift station off of Delhi Road and Keenan Court. We're looking at contracting out. We're getting so many generators now, it's getting hard for Chad to stay ahead of the maintenance on all of them, of maybe looking at a contract to see if somebody can't come in and just service.
One rotate through.
Wastewater, water, fire department, and do them all at once.
Mhm.
So there's a little dollar value figured in there. The testing item, you'll see we've bumped up a little bit, but just, it's the cost of doing business. Everything's going up. The DNR is requiring more testing every year. So that one we increased. The equipment purchase, we've left this $15,000 in the last few years with all the power outages and everything we've had over the last 2 or 3 years. We're starting to look at putting transfer switches on the lift stations to install generators. I know there's a grant out now that we need to finish up to maybe get a couple or 3, if we're lucky, generators installed at some more lift stations, some more of the critical lift stations. Meter purchases, you'll see a fairly substantial jump in that, but that I am taking off of the water department's word. I know the price of all that's went way up and we're
Yeah.
way behind, so. I mean,
And for the current fiscal year, when we were looking at the numbers, you're at your budget, and we do have some more meters that were ordered and that we need to get in.
with the new
so.
construction and everything, it's just hard to stay ahead and then fix what's bad, so
Do you know what we're projected to use or need for meters this year?
that would
Um,
be in a chat item, so.
So what we've budgeted, or what we re-estimated it to, it's the third line from the bottom is 40,000, so that's 40 out of Perry's and 40 out of Chad's, so 80,000, we're already at 60,000.
And with all the new construction, he has a lot of new meters that he needs to get on hand
And
too.
we also kind of just need to order them as they become available too.
Yeah.
There wasn't he saying the last time that
Yeah.
you can't get them when you want them?
Correct. Well, you try to order a box of them, you can't necessarily get the box. You have to beg, borrow, and steal.
And the meters in the system, in the entire town now, we're getting a pretty good age on them. It's time to start looking at the other side of that too, of doing, complete meter replacement program, but I guess we'll address that when the time comes, but. You'll see a slight increase in the sludge hauling contract, this fall when we haul, Joe's contract goes up to 5 cents a gallon, so it's part of the. Yep, it was 4.5 cents for 2 years, 5 cents for 1 or 2, and then we renegotiate, or we have a new contract coming up, so. You'll see that go from, I think we had 31,750, and we're bumped that up to 35 to cover that 700,000 gallons that we cover here, our haul every year. So, page 2. This is a really short page, but has a really big number. The camera and trailer. We have budgeted 115 for the new camera and trailer. I think the last estimate we got, Jason, was 102, 4, somewhere in there. So that's, I think they bid it the year before at 99 and they added a small increase into that, so. We've looked through a lot of options. And maybe Jason can get some of this out to you. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but to get what we need. If you go through all the paperwork, it gets really confusing. It's anywhere from 10,000 to 40,000 a year to hire somebody to do it. And then there's a huge fee on the emergency side of it, I think you're looking at a minimum of 2,000 or 2,500 per emergency side of them, having to come to town. So I don't, the numbers get confusing. There's so many things, the variables in the numbers. There's a few of them that, a minimum of 25,000 a year, or a minimum of 40,000 a year to have them come in, clean, televise, and give us the reports, so. It's all how you wanna look at it, if you wanna, in 3 years, we could pay for it by doing contracts, but we have spots now that we'd like to televise. Actually, the sewer at the shop needs televised right now. They had an issue late last week, so I think it's a very important thing as far as the sewer system needs for maintenance, so with the trailer and the camera, I'm hoping 10 to 15 years, you know, is the longevity of it, so that's a long time to be paying somebody $20,000 a year to
Right.
be doing.
And we looked into too, like, for the local, trying to just, you know, piggyback off of that. And it's hard to do that because if we have the camera, something goes wrong with it, take it back. You know, his guys use it the next day. It's just hard, it's hard to, for them to put a number on. What's it gonna take to do that where, you know, where they're gonna cover themselves and work.
I think he shot us
It was like 25,000 was the number he threw out, you know, so he was covered, you know, it was like, that's a lot
That is.
for, you know, in 4 years' time and, but I understand this side of it too, that's because they're expensive pieces, so it's a tough.
Okay, any further questions for Perry, or did you get everything? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think, you know, we're gonna be looking at another increase this next fiscal year that it's not so much our line items are jumping a whole lot. It's the age of the plant that's jumping a whole lot, so I don't wanna get caught, you know, behind the 8 ball with all of a sudden we need a whole bunch of repairs and we're looking at a giant increase at that point. I think we need to stick with the gradual increases. And, you know, our permit expires in 26,
Right,
probably see something new in 28 or 29,
right.
but so be that, but we just need to be ready with phosphorus and all that stuff coming down the line for removals. It's something to keep in the back of our mind that we don't wanna get so far behind that we can't catch up, so.
Exactly. All right,
All right.
thank you, Perry.
Thank you.
All right, next, Jason.
Give you guys a chance to take a peek at it too.
Excuse me.
We'll start with, I guess, the community beautification and compost fund. I've been working with another company to come in and, do our grinding and stuff. The contract that we'd be looking at is roughly the same dollar amount as what we have with T&W. This company is structured a little bit different. They would come in and grind and take everything off site. So the things that we're doing extra now, like in the fall year, hauling stuff and getting rid of it, that this company would take that stuff away. They would basically leave when we tell them what we want left, they'll leave what we want left, take away what we don't, basically. So the stuff that's behind the fence now, we could compost for years to come. There's a lot out there, so he would rent a machine, come in and compost like crazy when the days are long this summer. So we're looking pretty strong at that, where it's the same, basically the same dollars is what we're paying now, but it just helps us out in the long run to be rid of we have with all the large wood and all that stuff. They'd come in and grind that stuff up. Potentially, they could have, Doug be able to have mulch or, his mulch made out of it, certified. So they're willing to work with that possibly too. So I think there's some pretty good benefits for us on that. So really that's probably the big thing that's going on at the brush dump, I would say, or the
You want to talk
compost.
about the tree removal chipping fee.
Yeah.
We are bumping that up a little bit.
Yeah,
Part of that is because we do have a few property owners that have some dead trees. Significant amount of dead trees that we just assume chip on their site and grind them up on their site instead of having them plug up the compost site. So there'll be an extra for this to set up out there, but it saved us a huge hassle.
yeah. And we've, there's been quite a few trees that have picked up here on the tail end too, that John Kepler's actually cut for us here. Matter of fact, I'm gonna say we're down to just a handful of ash trees that are left. He just took 2 out of a residence yard up on, Acre Street, this just last week, and I think that's getting real close to the end on those, but.
Ash trees in the cities right away.
In the, yes, in the.
Private property, there's still plenty of ash trees.
Yeah, that's the thing, is there's gonna be a lot of ash coming in yet with private people. There's a lot of dead ones in the yards yet that'll be coming in out there, so. This company that's looking at that is, that stuff will all, what we don't want will get ground and be gone, so.
Where are the oak trees been going? I've seen some oak trees that come down like at the fairgrounds and stuff like that. Where are those going?
You know, they had some people that took some stuff out of up there. They had somebody that was looking to burn some things. And I
Okay.
know the stuff that came off of North Second Acres
Okay.
went to a private person too, other than the brush part of it. So,
Yeah, all the dead ash and
Yeah.
on those trees inside, they stockpile by the cattle barn.
Oh,
I
did
think
they?
one of the
And people
fair
get
board
in,
members.
cut it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the big thing with that, I guess, but, the street equipment, street sweeper is on there. We're budgeting 375,000. The sweeper with trade, it looks like we're gonna be in that 300,000 range. I'm looking at a couple different options on that, and we haven't nailed it down to exactly where we're gonna be at on that yet, but give or take 300,000 with trade is gonna get us fairly close on that piece there. So that's that, and then holiday decorations, lights, we did buy a few more decorations this year off of that, but that's really the big thing on that, I guess. Would we pick up another 10, Tim? Is that what?
We'll be placing an order for another 10, they're on discount right now, so now's the time for us to buy them, feel ahead of time.
So,
And then we've been working to replace all the bulbs with LED.
yes,
bulbs.
yeah.
They're more efficient, hopefully.
Yeah, and they're way more durable for when we're taking them up and putting them down. The other glass bulbs broke real easy, so the stuff that will be downtown, matter of fact, it's done. As we took them down this year, JJ and a couple of the guys switched out all the bulbs on the stuff that goes downtown, so that'll be a nice change, actually. It'll be a little bit more durable for that, but that's the big thing with the Christmas decorations. Then jumping over to, the next page, buildings and grounds, I need to put some doors in over there. The bottoms of some of them are just rotten, like there's not even enough to fasten some new, weather guards on the bottom of them to keep the snow from blowing in.
On the same shop.
Yeah, we're over at the shop. So, doors are, I mean, everybody knows is put garage doors in, you're looking at for our 10 by, or, yeah. The 14, they're 14, 12 by 14, $5,700, one door. So that's no openers, no nothing, so I mean, it's just, it goes in a hurry with what we got on there, but I'm gonna try to get one put in yet on this year, and then potentially do one after July 1st of next year to get us a couple doors in at least over there, so. But yeah, they're rotten, the bottoms of them, the panels are just shot from over the years in that old truck barn, so. But, other than that, going down through our sidewalk repair and maintenance is another one there. The ADA panels and stuff get real pricey when we do those, like we did this one over here at the corner. And the panels alone for one of those corners is about $800. So it just goes fast when you start doing those ADA corners. But that's that. Fuel is pretty much, like I said, that's kind of a guess too. Vehicle repair and maintenance, we left that. Hopefully we'll make it through on that. Tires, and Perry too, on his, I noticed too, but we do have a set of tires for the front of his jetback that's gonna be, or our jetback that's gonna be coming due, but our tires are actually I think we're fairly decent shape, other than maybe a repair here or there. The Beacon, price increase was, that was our Schneider. We've done quite a bit more with Mike on our, GIS. for the sewers and stuff, we got the maps and stuff, that's what was here tonight when we got here, I think you guys saw, Randy made us a real nice copy of our sewer maps and everything that we have on that is up to date now, like all Joe's subdivisions in it. Everything's up there now, so the guys have really taken a good charge of that and having it all on the GIS now, so we can map everything on there and as we're doing projects, so.
You're tracking when you're flushing hydrants.
Yeah.
Or not hydrants, but flushing sewers and stuff like that, so we know how much we're getting done every year. We can track what's being done throughout the community.
Root sawing, all that stuff, we have on this tablet now, so it's really, like I
And that'll
said,
go into televising and all that.
Yeah.
And we-
That would be nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the guys have done an awesome job of taking charge of that and making that happen, so. That's that, mowing contract, like I said, we stayed the same on that. And jumping down to the traffic light, I honestly don't know what's going on with Butler Street. It's, he was here again last week. We moved some stuff around in there, got some stuff. He called me a couple hours later because we had the sewer jetter stuck in the sewer. Called me a couple hours later. He says, I honestly don't know what I did with this thing, but he says it's back working again. So he moved some wires around. Yeah, replugged in a few different things and we're back going. So it's a wild card there. I honestly don't know what's gonna happen up there. It may last a long time or it may be out again next week, so. That. We did add a little bit on our salt, for when I make mix. I didn't have a place to ever put sand in. We made sand and salt mix. For when it gets real cold, below 15, we'll use sand mix, so we did add a little bit there on that line item. But. And then sweeper repair and maintenance. That's. I think we pretty much left that the same as where we were at. If we go with the new sweeper, then obviously our fees will go down, but. And then. The next of the inlets and outlets, we're just leaving that the same too, but that's our. Like the storm sewers that we fix and stuff, so. And I decided I'm actually I got quotes, we were gonna do some repairs up on Fairview Drive. And we're gonna do those in-house, that came back at about 10,000, and I think we can do it for about half of that by doing it in-house. That's all I got. Anybody got any questions?
I had a question about the compost site.
Yep,
Have you looked into somebody come in, and actually splitting some of that wood?
so.
This is town, just,
Yep, what we would do honestly, anything that's like 12 to 14 inches. Is I'll probably have them put that to the side for the residents. It's the bigger stuff more what I'm after that they don't like to cut. The 24-inch and stuff that nobody wants to do, he'll shear that stuff up, but. A lot of that smaller stuff I will put to the side yet for the residents. So, and even with his machine, there's a possibility that we could just say, hey, can you just shear this up into some smaller stuff? So the residents, it's manageable. Yeah, I just had a guy in there over the weekend and he took 4 huge dump truck loads out of there. So there are people that do use it, but. It's just, we got so overwhelmed with it this year, it came in so fast with everybody cutting, we couldn't stay ahead of it.
There's quite a bit of big stuff on there.
Yeah, big stuff.
I think a lot of people lost trees this year,
Yeah,
for storms or just cutting them down or whatever's.
I look for this next year to be a really big year out there yet too, just because of all the ash that are in people's yards, they're gonna have to do something with them because they're getting to the point where they're dangerous. I mean, well, they've been to that point, but yeah, that's, that people do like it, that's for sure. So,
Thanks, Jason.
yep,
Thanks, Jason.
you bet.
Do you want to speak to the water department then, or?
Yeah, let's-
Yeah.
I'll just do light level and we get questions on, that's what I'm to, Chad.
back to library.
Building and grounds, again, we're looking to replace the roof this year, this fiscal year. At well four, that was when we talked about the building up there on William Street. Council got the, seal or the, hidden factors and now the roof of well, house number 7 also needs to be replaced. That's what we're budgeting for next year. And also replacing the door that goes into the chlorine room. That gets eaten up pretty well. Water tower maintenance, William Street water tower is due for inspection, have that reviewed. Keep on going with everything else through there. Insurance, again, we're projecting a 10% increase in insurance across the board throughout the city.
That is for property and vehicle, the general
Yeah.
insurance, not work comp or group.
You see, we bump up again, we share those costs with the increases in GIS, updates with Beacon. And we do use that extensively here in the community. Tim's using that for sidewalk inspections. Chet uses it when they do their hydrant flushing, valve turning. Every time they flush a hydrant, every time they turn a valve, they've got it marked on that GIS. We can download a report at the end of the year and make sure everything's been touched that year. And we do try to make sure we touch everything that year. And that's one of the things that helps us understand whether our system's working, our valves are working, so contractors, when we do have a break, we can isolate it without having to shut the whole town down. That's important. IT computer services, again, part of that increase was the firewall update we had to do. We have it up there a little bit because there's some computer stuff that we need to update to. I believe we're looking at some new computers. That would be one we get.
Windows 10 is going away, so Windows 11 is the only thing, October 1st.
And that was primarily due to the firewall, so it's a daily increase in that line item.
But next year's budget, I think he's gonna replace the computer.
That actually, we were able to push that off, but I think there were some additional expenditures in that line.
Okay.
And that's why we're leaving that at the 25, related to the metering equipment and the annual, how those software firms always have an annual fee. So that's why we're leaving that at 25.
Any questions on this page here, but I'll have Chad explain later on to you.
Chad did want to point out on the vehicle purchase, that was for the truck that was damaged by the water. We did receive $16,000 in trade for that truck. And then we had also received $56,041 from insurance for that truck. So that should pretty well take care of the expense of replacement. There's still some work being done on it out at DJ's as far as installing
Transferring everything.
the box and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
That's the one from the,
Hose.
self-inflicted.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was accidental, it was not.
I mean, we didn't have to blood down and
Yeah.
parking in on spot.
Harry had talked about the meter replacements and updates there. So I'll say, and then the distribution maintenance, at the end of this year, if there's funding available, we'd like to purchase a new trench box. About $7,000 to update what we have, makes it a little easier. Jason, do you know much on that trench box?
It's, the old stuff that we have now is, it's spreader hydraulically, it's just, it doesn't work. It does work, but it's just way cumbersome, and we'd just like to get a trench box that we can have set up for the size. Have it on our dig trailer, so we just swing it right off once we're.
The trench box is the one you drop it in so you can get down and
Yeah.
work in it safely.
Yep.
And then next year, we're looking at doing a number of fire hydrants to clean those off and repaint those. And you'd like to get that on a schedule, because, it's cheaper if we can get them to do quite a few of them in town at one time, so. We did that last year and next year is what he's looking to do.
How many is he thinking,
50 hydrants.
and how many is there in town?
300 and something.
Almost pushing 400.
Yeah,
Well, we got it all.
yeah.
One of the big things we want to talk about is our capital improvement projects, and this is, they completed the water tower cleaning out in the industrial park and the exterior paint. Well, the exterior paint, he's got tough places, you got to patch up. They got some big hole, or, the paint's chipped off. We want to get that patch so we don't get down to the lead-based paint that we'd have to do extra precautions on. So keep that up, maintenance on that. But what we want to talk about is engineering for the booster pump replacement, and that's where we have a couple different options here. One of them is just replacing the booster pump down River Street, bringing it out of the floodplain so it's no longer a confined space entry, getting it out of the floodway or floodplain, and relocating that. The other option is doing that plus another booster pump and turning the whole water system in town onto one pressure system. Right now, we have two pressure systems. This side of town is a lower pressure. The west side of town tends to be higher pressure. We get them all in the same pressure. That would help
We
alleviate some of
talked
the
about
issues.
that at a council meeting.
Yep, and so we are looking at ways to see if we can find some funding for that. But we have to have some engineering to go forward with that. And so right now, looking at next year, starting off with the engineering and then figuring out which route we're going to go with the booster pump replacement. That booster pump, it's about 20 feet in the ground next to the river. It is seeping water in there. It's an old lift station, basically, that it just sunk in the ground. So that's something that needs to be addressed sooner than later. We have basically 3 water mains across the river. Is that correct, Barry? Like 3 of them?
We crossed down there, that booster station,
And then
we crossed at
Fairway,
Fairway and we crossed down there
by
by.
the compost site.
Yeah, Buck and Old old place. We cross and come up towards, head straight up Grant Street towards the Blue Water Tower.
So this would address the issue we have when we take the industrial park water tower down, because that's the only elevated storage we have on the high pressure side. But keep everything at the same pressure, then we can flow water over to the high pressure side or the west side without having as much of an issue. That would have a better or less of an impact on the industrial park when we take that tower down for maintenance. So those are things, you know, we obviously want to address. Wellhead improvements, looking at replacing well number 5. Replacing the pump on that, that's just standard maintenance operations. So those are the things that we're talking about for capital improvements in the water department. As Perry addressed earlier, we didn't talk about revenues, but again, we're looking at an increase in water rates again. It costs money to operate, you know, the systems that everybody have, and it's not getting any cheaper. Getting water meters is a challenge, but that's where our revenue comes from. The meters are running and counting accurately, and that's where we're getting our revenue. When they're not as accurate, they slow down. Typically, the SX22s, the older they get, the slower they are. They don't count as much, and so we start losing water quantity at that point.
So then we would have our residents using more water than we're actually able to count.
Yeah, then we're billing for it.
Typically, when meters go bad, they slow down, they don't speed up, some.
Parts were out on the,
Well, I hope I got one of the old ones, then. There's a lot of people in that house.
So those are things that Chad was gonna briefly touch on. Again, we'll have him come back at the next meeting to fill you in, but if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, everybody, for all your hard work. Appreciate it. Always a fun time of the year. But you guys always, you really, I know. They told me I might have to sit between the 2 of them tonight, so.
Let's do this after.
Big smiles from you guys in one time.
You guys do a really good job of, you know, really keeping it tight, so we truly appreciate that. Do you have anything else you want to share yet?
Yeah, so basically, we'll go through my presentation really quickly here. A lot of it's a repeat. I've been told that they're tired of
Do you want the
the song and
department heads
dance.
to stay, or do you want them to all be able to go? What would you?
I'm gonna keep this at 15 minutes. I'd like them to stay so they hear.
So you can hear it all too. Okay.
Are you putting it on the screen or just?
I'm just gonna flip through it.
They all have them?
No,
Okay.
because they're gonna make up that.
Budget cuts.
But that's-
They were paid.
Okay, so basically, page 4, the first 3 pages are all the same thing.
Yeah.
Page 4 is your definitions. I want to make sure everybody councils understands what assessed value is, consolidated tax rate, debt limit, utilization, how those terms work. And so we get down to the bottom of page 5 of the assessed value by class. We saw growth This year, we saw growth through 5.101% growth in total valuations. What happens there, you can see the increase by classification, residential. In residential properties, we grew by $9.7 million. That was where the majority of the growth came from. We did see commercial grow by 3.5. Industrial it's stagnant. We didn't see any growth there. So that's where our growth came from. Now, when it says $9 million in growth in residential valuation, what we haven't talked about yet is our rollback. So you have your assessed valuation. And that's what the assessor says that your house is worth. And right now, based off assessed valuation, 71% of the city's total valuation is residential. So that means commercial, industrial, and utilities make up the other 30% of our valuations. So when there is something that impacts residential, that's 70% of our valuation. You go down to taxable value by class, and you can see the breakout there too, so it's all broken out for you. When you go down to taxable valuation, because of the rollback, the way that impacts residential values, commercial, industrial. Now, based on taxable value, 64% of our value is residential. So there's a 6% drop. Again, majority of our taxes come from residential properties. When you take a look at assessed value compared to taxable value, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, the gap between what was assessed, you were paying on 62% of that. That's what we were capturing. Next year, we're looking at 52%. So almost half the value of assessed value is gone. And so we're not seeing that. The benefit we have this year is we're seeing an increase in residential rollback. That's going from 46.3% to 47.4%. So we're seeing a 1.1% increase. The negative here is how much of that 1.1% increase on residential rollback that is set by the state, we have no control over, impacts our growth. That the state now says you have to roll back what you capture because you're going to make too much money. If we grow over 2%, the state and what we capture for income, new money's coming in. The state rolls us back 1%. Over 3%, we get rolled back 2%. So that 5.01% increase in growth, we're only going to see 2.95%.
So why grow?
There's the challenge. It's what's going to happen, and we'll talk about this, is we're going to see $56,000 in new general fund dollars. $56,000 in new general fund dollars to cover water, not water and sewer, covers administration, parks, libraries, police, fire, all the departments that are covered by general fund. We gotta figure out where we're gonna use the rest of that funding to cover our expenditures in growth in employment. Insurance we can levy for, but it's wages. What about increases in electricity, gas? What happens to fuel rates? So all those things we have to figure out how we capture. So that's why I'm saying this is not going to be an easy budget year. We're gonna have to look through this and figure out what we can do. With it going up 1% from 46 to 47%. This also impacts commercial industrial. It impacts commercial industrial because commercial industrial, the first $150,000 of assessed or taxable value is based on the same rate as residential. So they sell 1% increase. The rest of it is 90% captured without. Correct.
Okay.
So basically, you're the same rate on for commercial industrial. Your building bill, Honey Creek, yours out here, although you're a little different because you're split. Okay, but on the first $150,000 of value for that commercial building, it's taxed at the residential rate. Anything above and beyond that is 90% of that value is taxed. So there's still that rate break.
Right.
Now, when the state did this, they said they would backfill the cities and give us money so it didn't impact us. That backfill is going away. We're losing $11,000 or $12,000. I'll have to get that number down again. Just from that reduction. Then there's the business property tax credit. That property tax credit is the state saying, hey, we'll reimburse you for us now applying this tax credit to every commercial industrial property. For how long? They haven't told us when they're gonna stop doing that yet, but this year, that's estimated $144,000 in funding coming to the city from that business property tax credit. Right now, we'll get a little over $200,000 from the backfill, the business property tax credit that the state will take away from us. We'll lose that. The state's already projecting they're gonna lose $700 million this year based on the budget the governor's proposed. They can eat it in the reserves. They've got $9 billion for reserves. But how long is that gonna happen? So we're gonna see that money go. The state tells us they don't want us to be as reliable or reliant on property taxes. That's fine. Let's find other payments. But every time we find a mean to cover some other fee, they cut it and say it's not permissible. So how are we supposed to sit there and run a business? Government is a business and it costs money. We provide services, and the reason we provide that service is because you generally can't make money doing it. Fire trucks are not cheap. We just talked a little bit about replacing one. When we replaced 176, that was 400,000. We're looking at $650,000.
It'll be more than that.
We're gonna look at ways we can reduce that. So it's really concerning to me with what's going on at the state level. When we get into what the property tax credits they've issued, homestead tax credit, last year was $1.1 million in tax credits just for the city of Manchester. It's dropped down to just shy of $1 million, and I'm not sure why that homestead tax credit declined, but the military tax credit went from, it's almost up to $2 million. Under House File, or excuse me, Senate File 29 has been proposed. They're looking at doing a tax credit for seniors, 65 years of age and older. And the way I read this bill, and I might be wrong,
It's proposed right now.
It's proposed, but it's not enacted, but if it goes through, that would be a credit towards anybody that has a house that owns a homestead, they're 65 years and older. If their tax bill is less than $6,500, they may not have a tax bill. But where does that get covered from?
And our demographic or our average age is over 50.
You know, when you start looking at the city of Manchester demographics, we're doing what we can to incentivize housing so we can capture more people, get them to move to community and grow our population. That's what we have to do. We used to sit there and chase smokestacks. Everything was about industries. We want industries, we want industries. You gotta get those jobs. We can't fill the jobs now. That's the problem we're running into. So we're working on doing that. So that is the initial spiel that I wanted department heads to hear. I wanted you guys to hear. We can get into the capital improvements, the guys already, or department heads already talked about that a little bit. This is just kind of a snapshot for the council. But Aaron and I are working to put things together. Our general fund levy, because of our growth, will drop from $8.12 roughly per thousand to $7.97 per thousand. And we cannot go back up to the 810 until after fiscal year 29, when that law allows us to go back. If you continue to grow, it keeps ratcheting down the general fund.
I hope Mr. Zumba's listening tonight.
Is that what you're gonna see, these smaller towns after they, unincorporate? Yeah, for a small town, 5% growth might be because they built one brand new house in town. Right.
City of Delaware, for example, one new house went up, they got ratcheted back on how much property taxes they could ask for, so we don't even get to capture the full value of one new house. They're gonna see an additional $1,200 this year in property tax revenue, yet they still have to maintain the streets and do all those things for that property. So it's really gonna be hard. It's hard on us, it's really gonna be hard on the small towns that make up Iowa.
I want to know what the state is figuring, how they're going to make any revenue.
Well, Des Moines has a $7 million shortfall.
Coralville's city manager was on the news the other night too.
Was he?
He talked about theirs 22 is gonna be quite a bit of shortfall for them also. I mean, just plowing snow and trying to keep streets cleaned and patched.
Well, and to explain this whole property tax system and the valuations and all of that, it's such an overcomplicated system. I mean, they've made it so confusing to just go and explain it to, you know, somebody on the street. I mean, you almost have to have a degree. And then they change it, you know what I mean? If the growth is capped at this, and so we can't capture the full value, and you have a taxable value, and you have an assessed value, and then you have a rollback value.
Yeah, and that's part of it.
Confusing.
They've implemented a way to protect homeowners and ag landowners from having huge spikes in their valuations. That was what that rollback initially came down.
Right.
So residential and agricultural properties were tied together. Neither one could grow by initially 4%, or the lesser value of the other one. Well, now it's 3%. So farmland's growing, and again, I saw someone sold farmland for $19,000 an acre. The valuation of farmland's growing by 3%, but residential one grows by 1%. Everything gets rolled back down. So through the lower growth of them. When we say growth valuations, they look at it statewide. They don't look at it each individual house. And that's part of the confusion too, because that's how the state sets the rollback number.
Is an average of.
Statewide, yeah. So that makes a big
And
difference.
it's been a long time since they've even looked at how they decide evaluations. And the formula needs to be changed.
The formula does need to be changed.
Yeah,
That's the confusing part.
exactly,
And then when you have equalization years,
exactly.
so the local assessor has to have valuations within 5% of the average sales within the community. So if you're seeing houses that are valued at 100,000, but they're being sold for 120,000, he's got to raise the values of everything within the community by that 20% in order for that to equalize out.
The power of greed.
Well,
It's not that.
it's not that,
it's
it's
not.
valuations.
It's,
You
it's,
get greedy on what you want to sell your house
Yeah.
for, so then
Well-
everybody else starts
well,
selling it,
also-
so then all the property
well,
taxes.
it's supply and demand too.
Yeah.
That's supply and demand as well. If there's not enough houses, they were all going up in price because nobody can find a house.
So the things to watch for this year, as you're reading in the newspaper and all of that, or listening to the radio, is they are intending to go back at property taxes again on the local level.
That's a priority.
That is a definite priority, so we just need to make sure we're listening to what they are proposing. We may need to reach out to some emails or letters. There's also talk again about local option sales tax and the sales tax across the state. That's a big chunk of money for us that helps us pay for our street improvements.
Right.
And the walkway ones, so if we lost that money, $700,000-800,000 a year in our budget. That would have to be recouped somewhere to keep doing maintenance, or we spread it out even further before we're doing repairs.
And it's not just the city, it's the county. I mean, the
Mhm.
services that are being offered, I mean, the services that serve our citizens are being not met. They could say they're still funding them at a higher level, but it's not at the level of what it's growing. And so it's underfunded. And they are not meeting the needs of our communities. Mental health is gonna take a big hit this year.
And when mental health takes a hit, Ben takes a hit.
Ben takes a hit. Yeah.
Because we've got more responsibilities, more challenges to deal with them. All right, well, that's going to be my presentation today.
Nothing bad news for today.
So if you have questions, I do welcome you. If you don't want to come down here, I'm happy to come out and meet with you wherever. Sit down and talk to you about the budgets, talk to you about anything we're working on. Any goals and priorities you as a council have. That's what we're here to do, is meet those. And try to figure out ways to do it.
Yeah, if you're looking at the spreadsheets and notice a number that looks weird, give me a call. I can pull the detail, let you know what's going on with
It's
it.
just a draft though, because this week,
Oh, yeah, worst.
Yeah.
You guys did a great job.
yeah, everybody, thank you.
Presenting this stuff.
If you have any questions, I mean, we can meet down here someday too, one-on-one, if somebody throws out, something looks weird.
Yeah, or if you need additional information.
Not related to our budget, but the other day I saw something about California's wildfires and that, not Pasadena.
Allison,
Their property taxes stay the same from the day they buy their home?
In the state of California, there is a, I can't think of the terminology, but they passed a referendum so that your property taxes on the house you purchase stay the same until you sell that house. And then it goes up to whatever that new value is when that house is sold.
But now, you don't have any houses.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have the house, literally.
40% on insurance.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah,
Insurance.
they said there was already a lot of those places that didn't have insurance.
that's what I heard. A bunch of them didn't have insurance because it was so expensive for fire
Well, the
insurance.
insurance
Companies
companies
pulled it
yanked,
out.
they yanked because the leadership wouldn't cut down and everything. And the fire- I can see their point. It's like, hey, you got a potential fire hazard here. So if you don't clean it up,
I mean,
you know,
how do you
Newsom said
undercut
it
brush in a
ain't gonna
forest?
clean it up. Well, if you ain't gonna clean it up, we're yanking your coat.
They got machines that go.
So, that's the problem.
Anyway, I had given you guys all a list of proposed, committee assigned, or that I kind of put down. Did you guys, I mean, are you guys cool with those, or did you have something you want to do different, or you're all okay with this?
I'd probably be able to do the D-set, but the other one, I'm just not gonna have enough time.
Okay, okay. We'll figure that one out. Okay. It was the
The
bills.
bills.
You wanna do them again?
It's fun. It's not hard.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we'll get that written down then too. All right, is there anything else tonight? Brian, do you have anything else?
Other than we had a really good, visit with Bitcoin mining. And, I'm just looking to get a little bit more information, and then I'm gonna do a little write-up for the rest of us,
Okay.
so that. I took some, readings with an actual meter, took some readings. It's different setup than what's gonna be going out here, because it's gonna be liquid cooled. And then the fans are gonna be blowing vertical instead of horizontal. But when we actually, when you walked away from it, even 100 yards, I mean, you just saw here, but there again, there's gonna be more units out here, they're gonna be vertical, and so if Tim can get me a little bit more information, I'll feel. I'd say a 95% go with it. It's just that last little bit that I gotta push back. When I contacted the people that contacted me, worried about noise, I said, well, I'm a little bit more comfortable with it now, and they're like, well, like, how much volume is it gonna be?
I think putting a break around it too, some kind of they were.
No, I already have the building on the east side.
Okay,
So that won't really allow much to go to the east.
because I thought they were talking about some kind of a break,
Correct some
yeah,
of that, but
yeah.
Well, and Adam even said that, if it becomes an issue, they would be able to do some type of barrier.
Right. Right.
So that's a plus.
Right.
And then the fact of where it's gonna be located, really, I don't think there's gonna be a problem with what the citizens are worried about. They're worried about the kids area down there, which, you got two factories that are blocking all of it,
Mhm.
so. I really don't think it's gonna be. That deal.
no, I think we'll be fine on it. But, we'll try to get things so we have peace of mind.
Yeah.
Linda,
No, I'm not.
Mary Ann, nothing, Joe?
I was asked if we can leave the lights over South Franklin Street year round,
They're already gonna be there, they're set there all,
so they're just
Yeah.
gonna stay.
yeah.
Okay,
In fact, they're gonna try to add more.
right, I knew that they were trying to add more, I just.
We're gonna do South Wayne Street in front of your house.
Oh, are you?
Do you have an outlet we can use?
The neighbor, use the neighbors.
Tap into his solar.
I gotta get them put back on.
And we're planning a spray dance.
Or a shop party, it'd be a little warmer.
There you go.
The Vitality Group actually bought enough lights to, for that happened, but there's some logistics they gotta get
Right.
out in there,
Yeah, I mean, it looks great, I got a lot of feedback on how great it looks and stuff, and people would like to see it stay,
It's like El Cater, it's gonna be up year round.
yeah.
Bill,
Not a,
okay,
The chamber
Chamber Awards, it was Wednesday night,
Wednesday night
yeah,
from 5 to 7.
right, so,
I've got everybody signed up.
okay, right. So, with that, I don't have anything else. Thank you, everybody, again, for your hard work, and Aaron and Tim, I'm glad to see you're fitting nicely together. I'll take a motion from Bill, a second from Joe to adjourn, and we are adjourned.